Hello everyone. In continuation of my lectures on chemistry of vitamins. So in this session, let's have a detailed look on chemistry of pyridoxine, or which is otherwise called as vitamin B6. Let's see a little bit on the history of isolation. Professor Paul Gorgie has actually isolated B complex vitamins from yeast extracts. Along with several other scientists, he was also working on pellagra and related diseases and what is the role of a diet on those diseases. So there he has isolated several other vitamins, but he is well known for his contributions in riboflavin, biotin, and vitamin B6. Samuel Lepkowski crystallized vitamin B6 in the year 1936 and he has published it. And later on, Paul Gorgie, along with a collaborator, Thomas William Birch, so they started working on the chemistry of pyridoxine. Let's see in detail on the chemistry of vitamin B6. So its molecular formula was obtained as C8H11O3N. So can you calculate the number of unsaturations that we get over here? 4 unsaturations will come. Okay. So this compound is a weak base and it formed a mono salt with hydrochloric acid. Okay, means the nitrogen we have over here is actually a basic chemical. And presence of hydroxy groups, and how many hydroxy groups are there, because here we have 3 oxygens are there. So in order to know the nature of oxygen, what they have done is simple reaction. One is ester formation. So they treated this compound with acetic anhydride and they got triacetate, and they could even isolate the compound by distilling in vacuum. The 3 hydroxy groups were further confirmed by Jervinov's method. This is a simple but a very effective method where they treat the compound with methyl magnesium iodide. This is a Grignard reaction. So we all knew that in case of Grignard reagent, if it is highly unstable and when it comes in contact with a nucleophile, it will react with that. So here upon reaction, it releases methane quantitatively. So how many moles of oxygens are there? OH groups are there. Those many moles of methane group will be released, which will be analyzed later on. So in this method also they found 3 hydroxy groups were there. So what are those hydroxy groups? When OH group is there, whether it is acidic or simple alcoholic, or means phenolic or simple alcoholic, that is what we need to determine. So here what they did is, like a compound was made to react with diazomethane. Diazomethane is known for its ability to esterify, to form ester groups with acidic OH groups. Like if you take carboxylic acid, you will get carboxylic acid methyl ester. If you take phenol, phenol methyl ether, H will be replaced by CH3. Okay, so that is the way. It's a known reagent. So what they got is a monomethyl ether. And this monomethyl ether, upon treatment with the carboxylic acid or acetic anhydride, gave a diacetate. So what does it mean? It means that the compound has 1 OH group and 2 hydroxy groups, because here we have only 3 oxygens are there. So there is no possibility of having a carboxylic acid over here. So 2 hydroxy groups and 1 phenolic OH. And this gave violet color reaction, or the reaction we call it as specific diagnostic color reaction with the neutral ferric chloride reagent. This confirmed presence of a phenolic hydroxy group in this compound. So monomethyl ether upon oxidation with the KMnO4 gave a dibasic acid, means a dicarboxylic acid was obtained. And if you see the molecular formula of the compound C8H8O3NOCH3. So this is the molecular formula for the methyl ether, and as far as the carboxylic acid is concerned, there is no change in the carbon atoms. Okay, C8H6O5NOCH3. So here what is the difference? Hydrogens. How much is the difference? Okay, H10 became H6. means 4 hydrogens are gone, and how many oxygens were added? 2 oxygens were added. What does it mean? C, because H2 is changed. Okay, carboxylic acid is formed means COOH is supposed to be formed. So 2 hydrogens from each of the carbon are gone, and we got, in return we got 2 carboxylic acids. What does it mean? It means that 2 CH2OH groups were there, which were made to get oxidized with the help of the oxidizing reaction to obtain COOH group. So all these reactions gave us a clear information like this is an aromatic compound, this is basic in nature, it's a phenolic hydroxy group is there, and 2 CH2OH groups are there. So if you look at these reactions closely, it even indicates that the compound, the aromatic compound, is actually a pyridine, because where we'll be able to accommodate nitrogen. Further, presence of one CH3 group, the compound upon oxidation with chromic acid is such a severe oxidizing agent which can destroy any kind of organic compound. So one of the degradation product obtained is 1 mole of acetic acid. Acetic acid can be obtained only when we have a CH3 group attached to benzene ring, or otherwise any kind of other organic compounds available, means CH3C type of bond is needed for obtaining acetic acid. So this indicated that in the compound one CH3 group is there. Presence of a pyridine ring. So here comes the application of a spectroscopy. So they used UV spectrum of pyridoxine, okay, and compared it with the known pyridine derivatives. What they found is the UV spectrum of pyridoxine is almost similar to 3-hydroxypyridine, and its lambda max is close to 290 nanometers, and it also behaved the same way as 3-hydroxypyridine to solvent changes. So this indicated that there is a possibility of presence of a pyridine ring with a hydroxy group at the meta position, or we also call it as a beta hydroxy. Okay, so both are the same. It is suggested that pyridoxine contains a pyridine ring with phenolic hydroxy group at C3 position. Now we wanted to fix the position of the hydroxy groups. So where exactly do we have the hydroxy groups? So a series of reactions were done, but very important reactions only are mentioning over here. So one of the very important reactions over here is pyridoxine gave a blue colored product with Folin-Dennis reagent, which is a characteristic of beta hydroxypyridine. Folin reagents are very famous. Folin Siocolto and Folin Wu and Folin-Dennis reagent. So all these reagents are meant for quantitative evaluation of phenols, proteins, and amine compounds. Okay, with slight modifications, the reagent can be utilized. Folin-Dennis reagent is one of the oldest reagents available for quantitative evaluation of nucleophilic substances in the compound, especially phenolic hydroxy groups. So here what they got is the blue color, and then it actually gave the first indication that the compound could be a beta hydroxypyridine. Next one is pyridoxine monomethyl ether did not respond to oxidation by lead tetraacetate. So what is this lead tetraacetate reagent? Lead tetraacetate reagent is an oxidizing agent which is used for multiple reactions, but one of the reaction is identification of a glycol presence. Okay, so when we have hydroxy groups like this, and when it is oxidized by lead acetate, it gets oxidized via this reaction, and you will probably get 2 aldehyde groups. And this actually the compound, because monomethyl ether did not respond to oxidation by lead tetraacetate. So it indicated that the 2 oxygens are on separate carbons. Next one is further pyridoxine reacted with 2,6-dichloroquinone chloramide reagent to give blue color. Okay, so this dichloroquinone quinone chloramide reagent is one of the characteristic reagents where, okay, so this is the reaction here. From here let's see the explanation. So this is a reagent which works in the same way as azo dye formation. So in case of azo dye, we have here no onium ion will be there. So this upon reaction with the phenols, it actually attacks the para position to phenol. Let's say when we have a hydroxy group, para to hydroxy group is actually being attacked by the azo dye formation reagents. So here the pyridoxine reacted with this reagent. What does it mean? Now previous reactions actually confirmed that the pyridoxine is actually a 3-hydroxy pyridine derivative. When we keep 3-hydroxy group over here, the para to this one is actually this position. Okay, means it's a alpha position, ortho position. Then only it is possible to form a blue color compound like this. So this is confirmed that one of the carbons which is para to hydroxy group is free. So how many other positions are available? 1, 2, 3. These 3 positions are available to accommodate the remaining substitutions. So how many we have? 1 methyl is there, 2 CH2OH are there. To accommodate and in these positions means let's number them. 1, this is 1, n is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now with these reactions we fixed that OH group is at 3rd position and hydrogen at 6th position. 2nd, 4th and 5th positions are to be now accommodated with CH2OH, 2 CH2OH and 1 CH3. So friends, I hope you are able to understand this logic. Pyridoxine monomethyl ether on careful oxidation with alkaline KMnO4 gave pyridoxine tricarboxylic acid. KMnO4 is such a very important oxidizing reagent where if you change the conditions like cold dilute KMnO4, cold dilute KMnO4 alkaline, cold dilute KMnO4 acidic, or if you change the concentrations further, or if you change the external conditions further, it can act as selective oxidizing agent. Okay, so when they used cold alkaline KMnO4 and oxidized the compound, they got a tricarboxylic acid which upon treatment with aqueous ferrous sulfate gave blood red color, which is characteristic of pyridine 2-carboxylic acid derivatives. Pyridine 2-carboxylic acid derivatives, because here we have N and COOH, and iron can form a complex with these 2 groups and gives us blood red color, which is characteristic. So it indicated that at in this oxidizing product on the 2nd carbon we have carboxylic acid group. Pyridoxine monomethyl ether on oxidation with alkaline KMnO4 upon heating. Okay, so this is a routine process. They got pyridine dicarboxylic acid anhydride and carbon dioxide. So this is what they got, and it did not respond to ferrous sulfate reaction. No blood red color was observed. Now what they did, this dicarboxylic acid is made to anhydride is made to carboxylic acid, and then again they tried. Again they did not get any kind of a positive reaction with the ferrous sulfate. So what they thought is like the compound is actually losing the 2nd carboxylic acid. So the substitutions or the carboxylic acids whatever we were getting is mainly because of the substitutions over here. This is the one possibility. So there is no carboxylic acid over here in this reaction. Next one is pyridoxine monomethyl ether they have taken. Upon oxidation with barium permanganate is a slightly weaker oxidizing agent than KMnO4. So upon treatment with barium permanganate, they got a dicarboxylic acid. There is no blood red color with aqueous ferrous sulfate. Okay, so what does it mean? it means that at a second position some R is there, and then these are the two compounds which are becoming carboxylic acids. This upon heating, it gave them anhydride. The anhydride gave Thalin reaction with resorcinol. So definitely phthalic anhydride, because if you have a benzene over here, it would become phthalic anhydride. Okay, so this reaction was obtained. So this anhydride was actually taken, and when they destroyed it by using oxidative degradation methods, they got 1 mole of acetic acid. It indicated that 1 mole of 1 methyl group is there in this compound. So these observations confirmed that the compound that has been formed in the beginning is actually dicarboxylic acid, and then methyl we can accommodate over here. Okay, so next to nitrogen means at second position methyl group, third position methoxy group, fourth and fifth position carboxylic acid groups can be accommodated, and they are actually supporting all these observations. So if you have a CH3 group over here in the beginning, okay, so here when upon oxidation, severe oxidation, so methyl group can be converted into carboxylic acid. So CH2OH can be accommodated right now over here. So these observations indicated presence of this structure. Scientists gave this structure with pyridine, with second position methyl group, third position hydroxy group, fourth and fifth position CH2OH groups for pyridoxine. Now to confirm the structure, what is the method that we have to use? We have to synthesize the compound. Kuhn has synthesized pyridoxine for the first time to confirm the structure. So he has taken isoquinoline unit, and then this isoquinoline upon oxidation gave dicarboxylic acid, pyridine dicarboxylic acid. So this dicarboxylic acid was esterified with the methanol, then reduced with lithium aluminum hydride to obtain pyridoxine methyl ether. So this methyl ether is hydrolyzed with the hydroiodic acid to obtain the target compound, and this compound is matching exactly with the pyridoxine. So this confirmed that the structure of pyridoxine is this. Okay, and two more synthetic reactions are there. Let's see one of them, which is very important. So Harris and Fokker synthesis, where he has taken acetone derivative as well as acrylate, cyanoacetamide. What is this compound? This is acetone. To one carbon ethyl ether is there, and to another carbon acetate group was added. Okay, so upon treatment with these two in the presence of a basic environment, they got pyridine derivative. This upon nitration gave 5-nitro pyridine derivative like this. This was halogenated with the help of PCl5, and this compound is reduced to obtain corresponding amine. And then upon hydrogenation, they got cyanide is converted into CH2NH2. This upon hydrolysis, because here what they did is they wanted to replace NH2. Okay, so NH2 is to be replaced. So aqueous HCl was used. So upon at 175 degrees centigrade, they got this product. And now at NH2, what is needed? We need to put here a hydroxy group. Can you name the reaction which can convert anilines to phenols? NH2 has to be replaced with OH group. So that reaction is Sandmeyer reaction. By using Sandmeyer reaction, the amine group is replaced by hydroxy group, and this gave the target product. Okay, this is nothing but pyridoxine. So friends, so this is the way how pyridoxine structure is confirmed. So here if you observe this synthesis or in this synthesis, what is it that you need to focus and learn is the way how they have designed the synthetic processes, so that with the simple starting materials and with a straightforward and unambiguous reaction conditions and design reaction conditions, they designed the processes so that ultimately you will get the target product. Okay, so here also you can see this introduction of amine as a replaceable functional group, and introduction of chlorine to obtain the target H over here. Okay, so like this, if you need the product like this, so what kind of starting materials are needed, so that design we need to see. Okay, so it's really interesting. Now let's see in brief about the biological significance of pyridoxine. Pyridoxine exists in our body in 6 forms. So this is what is actually isolated, but in our body scientists also found 6 different parameters. So this is pyridoxine, this is pyridoxal or aldehyde, and then pyridoxamine, and corresponding phosphate groups, phosphate esters are also there. Okay, so what is this one? Pyridoxamine 5-phosphate, pyridoxine 5-phosphate, and pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Okay, so all these are also there. Among all these, and this is the compound, pyridoxal phosphate is actually of highest activity. Pyridoxal is responsible for transamination type of reactions. So whenever amine group is to be replaced, pyridoxal is the coenzyme which helps the enzymes to facilitate deamination type of or transamination type of reactions. So here if you closely observe, pyridoxal aldehyde group actually forms a skiff base with the amines. Okay, so this amine group will be stabilized with this type of a hydrogen bond type of structure. Then later on it will be hydrolyzed to obtain the pyridoxal is becoming pyridoxamine. This pyridoxamine is revived with another type of a skiff base reaction where alpha keto carboxylic acids react with this amine and form a skiff base, and then amine is transferred onto that alpha keto carboxylic acid. This gives us a newer amino acid. So here we started with one amino acid from where we have removed nitrogen group, and then we transferred that nitrogen group onto another carboxylic, another alpha keto carboxylic acid to obtain a newer amino acid. So this type of reactions you can see especially in liver enzymes. Okay, so if you are going through biochemistry, liver parameters is one term we use. Okay, where alanine aminotransferase, serum glutamyl oxalyl transferase. Okay, so all these enzymes they use pyridoxine as one of the coenzyme. This is a very important molecule for amino acid metabolism and also transamination type of reactions. The next one is decarboxylation. So here interestingly it helps our system to remove carboxylic acids, where in the amino acid the amino group is now stabilized with imine formation or skiff base formation. Now after formation of the skiff base, the carboxylic acid will be removed as the carbon dioxide, and then pyridoxamine is actually revived. Pyridoxal is revived later on. So this is the way. Okay, so these kind of decarboxylation reactions you can see in case of biosynthesis of adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, etc., where decarboxylation gives us monoamines. So dear friends, I hope you understood the chemistry of pyridoxine, and I hope you enjoyed the chemistry and chemical reactions that we dealt in this chapter. If you find it difficult, or otherwise if you have any doubts, please mention it in the comment section. and I thank you all for your patient listening, and I'll meet you again with another lecture. If you like this video, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel.